We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
The news headlines from GB News at 11 o'clock. I'm Polly Middlehurst. And our top story, 12-year-old Archie Battersby has now died after his life support treatment was withdrawn. It follows a long-running legal battle between Archie's parents and doctors. He'd been in a coma at the Royal London Hospital since April after his mother found him unconscious in their home. Doctors declared him brain dead and the High Court ruled that life support treatment should end. Archie's mum says she's the proudest mother in the world.
Such a beautiful little boy, and he fought right until the very end, and I'm so proud to be his mum.
In other news this evening, a teenager has been stabbed to death in broad daylight in East London. Police rushed to the high road in Leytonstone at 2:15 this afternoon. They say they found the teen with several stab wounds and he died at the scene. No arrests have yet been made. Politics and Tory leadership candidate Liz Truss is taking aim at Rishi Sunak's legacy as Chancellor. She told reporters in the West Midlands that lowering taxes would ease the cost of living crisis and could avoid an economic slump. That comes as the Bank of England warned this week that the UK is expected to fall into recession later this year.
But what I'm about as a Conservative is people keeping more of their own money, growing the economy so we avoid a recession. And the best way to do that is lower taxes, but also unleashing investment into our economy.
Liz Truss, will her rival, Rishi Sunak, wants to tackle inflation before cutting taxes. While campaigning in Southampton today, he said Liz Truss's economic plans would harm low-income families.
We need to get real about this situation. It's simply wrong to rule out further direct support at this time, as Liz Truss has done. And what's more, her tax proposals are not going to help very significantly people like pensioners or those on low incomes, who are exactly the kind of families that are going to need help.
In Gaza, escalating violence has now killed 15 Palestinians, including one child. Palestinian militants have been firing hundreds of rockets at Israel in retaliation for airstrikes which targeted a jihadist group yesterday. The Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid says the attacks were launched in response to what he called concrete threats. And the UN is calling for an immediate end to any military action near Europe's largest nuclear power plant in Ukraine. Let's show our TV viewers video of the plant before rockets reportedly hit the area. That's what they look like pre-attack. The UN's nuclear watchdog is now warning, quote, of a very real risk of nuclear disaster after Ukrainian officials say high-voltage power lines were damaged. Russia and Ukraine are each blaming each other for the strikes, and there's no reported radiation leak. Meanwhile, 3 grain shipments have left the country's Black Sea port. They're carrying 60,000 tonnes of food, now heading towards Ireland, the UK and Turkey. That could be a sign the deal to release grain trapped by Russian blockades is now working and could slow down a growing global food crisis. That's it. You're up to date on TV, online, on radio via DAB+. You're with GB News, and now it's time for Headliners.
I'm Mark Dolan, and this is Headliners, your nightly review of tomorrow's papers. Joining me tonight to do just that is the Headliners Queen Bee herself, the fabulous Sajila Kershi. And making his Headliners debut is Headliners virgin and actual virgin, David Lewis.
How did you know?
Who knew? It's an open secret in the world of comedy. Let's now have a look at tomorrow's front pages, and we'll start with the Sunday Telegraph, who are leading with the following. Let's take a look at this. It's quite the headline. Hosepipes must be banned now, says Minister. Crackdown on water use looms across the whole of England as fears rise of an extended drought. Also, Truss will rush through her tax cuts to tackle the cost of living crisis. Passport office in chaos as number of lost documents triples in a year. And my brave boy has gone, says the mother of Archie. Of Battersby, of course, who very tragically died earlier today when his life support machine was switched off. Let's go to The Independent next. Archie fought right until the very end, and funds for struggling families must double, say experts speaking to The Independent. Currently, the amount of support available to those suffering the cost of living crisis is 15 billion. They are suggesting a figure closer to 30. Who's going to pay for that, I wonder? The Sunday Mirror next. Online horror revealed. TikTok pervs groom schoolgirls in sick sugar daddy craze. Schoolgirls are being paid by perverts to pose in their uniforms on a popular video app. TikTok was yesterday forced to delete accounts as the paper exposed this horrific scandal. The Sunday Times. Young mother was jailed for 2 years for having an abortion in Britain. And Sunak pledges billions more to ease the cost of living crisis. And plan to cut water waste, spend 60 seconds less in the shower. Sunday Express next. Rishi vows to jail child groomers for life. And the Daily Star Sunday, last but not least. Telly legend, bring back the ho-de-ho. Heidi High star Sue Pollard has said the BBC comedy is so low-de-low. She wants some funny telly again. Well, that's what we've got for you here at Headliners, and those are your front pages. And let's start with the Sunday Express. And Rishi Sunak has made a vow, Sajila.
He's made a vow. He's made one of many vows. So obviously they're doing the rounds, and this is his latest kind of pledge to get people on side. He's basically said he's going to imprison the grooming gangs, which obviously the story keeps coming up over and over again, by locking up offenders for life. I welcome that. I think that's a great thing. Or anyone who, does that should be locked up. And he was speaking to GB News. It's really interesting because the words that he used are kind of very similar to the ones that we've been using on here. So it's almost like he's taken his script from GB News. So obviously we are helping his campaign. He's kind of said yesterday when he was visiting the Isle of Wight, a Conservative government should not be letting political correctness stand in the way of keeping people safe. And we've said that many times on here as well. Now, Maggie, to sort of like counter-argument, from Maggie Oliver, who was a former detective, and she basically resigned from the Manchester Force back in 2012 over the failure to tackle the grooming gangs. And she turned whistleblower after leaving the force and, after the failure exposure of the Rochdale grooming gang. And she said that it's great while she welcomes the life sentences, but it's just headline grabbing, which I have to kind of concur with, really.
Well, that's right. And this laxity in terms of tough sentences and indeed convictions has happened. I mean, yes, it's happened in Labour boroughs, but at the same time, it's all been on the watch of a British Conservative Prime Minister.
And actually, I think the whole, it's just political correctness gone mad. It's just an excuse. It stops there being any accountability for the police force and for local councils. They're not being, they're using it as a scapegoat.
It feels like it is silly season all of a sudden, to be honest with you. I mean, we are in silly season, are we not? This is the middle of August. Rishi Sunak saying this, wanting to crack down and just jailing everybody. These crimes are extremely serious, but when you are speaking to the base, lock them up as much as possible seems to be how it's working. He said also in this piece in the Sunday Express that the authorities are scared of calling out the fact, as he put it, that there is a particular group of people who are perpetuating these crimes. By that, I presume he means paedophiles. Well, I do not know what he's sort of, I think the whole thing is ridiculous.
Do you think it's possible, David, that it's easier for a man that would become Britain's first Asian Prime Minister to tackle these sensitive issues around race?
I don't know. I mean, look, from the knowledge that I've got, there are Asian grooming gangs, yes. There are also white grooming gangs also. So I've no idea if he's just trying to play to the gallery a little bit and play to the crowd and know that the people who are perhaps listening to him right now, this 160,000 group of people who are the kingmakers who are going to decide who is next, will be more focused on one particular ethnic group than the other.
Well, I don't know. I think that's a bit unfair. I mean, I think it seems to be a problem that's a particular issue in Asian communities. I think that's. I don't think that's a controversial thing to say.
No.
And in fact, it's the avoidance of that point which has meant that so many girls have been raped.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But the thing is, it's like that isn't the issue. The reason why
it is the issue.
No. That isn't there isn't been no accountability because these men have been tried and put away, but there's been no accountability because what they've used is the issue. That it's like we were too afraid to be politically correct. We were a bit sensitive to cultural kind of differences, and that's why we didn't say. No, you just didn't do your job.
No.
You let these women.
No, they were afraid of being called racist.
Yeah, but I don't believe that. I don't don't know what you think of this, but it's like...
That was true. I mean, what Mark is saying, I understand, it goes back, over the last 20 years, there have been examples of grooming gangs that have not been prosecuted correctly because there was a fear from some police forces that it would be seen.
There should be no fear. When there's a crime like this...
There should be no fear. Isn't that at the root of it, though? It was the fear of being labelled racist that meant these crimes went unpoliced.
I think it got on police because the police didn't do their job correctly. There has been no accountability, and we're still letting them get away with it. But every time we kind of say that's the reason, but if that's the reason, then have some accountability for the police.
Some of the reports into this appalling...
Because that's always giving them a pass.
But some of the reports into this appalling miscarriage of justice and the tragedy that's happened to these women have highlighted statements from senior police officials saying we were afraid of being labelled racist.
But then
you're
that
saying they're
still
lying.
leaves the problem that they didn't do... No. Well, OK, whether they're lying or not telling the truth or lying, it doesn't matter. They still fail to do their job. If that's what they think, that's on them.
But if you take the race side of it out, then it would make it easier to prosecute. And I'm just wondering whether...
It doesn't matter who committed the crime. They all deserve to be done and they all deserve to be prosecuted. And I think a life sentence...
But I think what Rishi is saying here and what's coming across is that he talks about, quote, a particular group of people who are perpetuating
which we say crimes. A lot on this channel, a particular group of people, which we say a lot in the news items because we don't say either. And
you've done this programme before, I haven't.
Done it, yeah, I haven't.
So you might know.
I know, you're losing your virginity to us today.
Exactly.
That's it, but I think we can all agree at least that now this appalling crime is out in the open and there's hopefully going to be a lot more accountability as we go forward to protect all communities in our country.
Absolutely, but I'm going to go back to what you said about is it because Rishi's Asian, right? Kind of here.
No. Is it easier for a Prime Minister of colour to be tougher on these issues?
I actually think it's harder. I actually think it'll be harder on him. And actually, as we've seen from Priti Patel, you become more of a, like both sides hate her. Like, it's like you're not doing your job and it's like, God, you're a sellout. Do you know what I mean? So he's actually in a much more difficult position being Asian, just like you're putting me now because I'm Asian. What does she think about the Asian grooming gangs? You know, so
well,
it's
no,
the
I
same
haven't
sort of
focused on you in particular.
No, but I'm just saying. But that is the kind of that's the optics right here.
Yeah, no, I've quizzed you both quite wholeheartedly on this issue, and I think that it obviously it's a very, very complex situation.
Yeah, it is. It is.
You know, but you mentioned the Home Secretary Priti Patel. She has received dogs abuse as Home Secretary, hasn't she?
On both sides, yeah. And I think that's why Boris had her.
Those two?
But from her Asian community, or from the left, who say that basically she's not, she's being like really harsh. And also from the Conservatives saying she's not doing the job that she's hired for.
Do you think it's possible, though, that the left and the right are giving her abuse because she is entirely hopeless? Or is that something...
that has been a consideration.
So regardless of anything, it's just her
I think it's because she's
inability occasionally to do the job that she is there to do.
No, absolutely. But the thing is, I think she was put in that job because it took the flack off Boris. And so she gets all the flack. And I think whoever's going to make it is still going to keep her because she takes all the kind of... And seems happy to be doing that as well. It's interesting. Now, she's thick skinned, isn't she?
She's not staying. Sorry to break it to you. And I say
what do you know?
I don't want to
What
get
do you
above
know?
my station as the new boy, but she's not staying if someone else...
Just briefly, just to throw some support in her direction, do you think that the way that she's been treated over the years suggests that some level of acceptability of attacking a British Asian like Priti Patel? Because I feel that it seems the press have decided it's OK to attack a British Asian like her. Some of the newspaper front pages, I think it was one particular illustration of her, I think, as a bull with like a ring in her nose.
What does that mean?
It was one of the... I don't know.
What does that mean?
It was disrespect. It was considered to be disrespectful because it was the imagery, the symbolism of a cow, and she is Hindu, I think.
I was pretty shocked by that.
That is racist.
Well, that's right. And, I just think
that is racist. And who put that up there?
It was. I think it was New Statesman. I'll correct myself if I'm wrong.
New Statesman, you should be ashamed of yourself, New Statesman. Are you listening there? Yeah, you. Talking to you.
It was one of the left-leaning magazines, but we'll get to more stories now. That one will, of course, rumble on. And let's power through a few more before the break. The Observer and the situation in the Channel, David.
Yes, Channel smugglers drop prices and cram more people onto boats, says The Observer. This is a story about the increasing number of people who are arriving in the UK on overcrowded vessels, and it shows that the Rwanda plan is not working, some people say. And I was looking at the numbers. It's quite amazing. So last November, French police quoted a price of about £5,000 charged by smugglers to get an individual to cross the Channel. And now asylum seekers, non-governmental organisations, are saying that prices have dropped to between £500 and £1,000 for people to get on. And hundreds of people this week, 696 asylum seekers, crossed over. So there has clearly been a massive drop. It's incredibly complicated, very depressing, and there is no answer to it. Every time this sort of conversation comes up, it's all to say, there is a quick fix, proposed, I imagine, by one of the two people standing for the leader of the party, but there is no quick fix.
I completely agree. I think that the elephant in the room is France, and I think until the Brits and the French can come to an agreement about how to solve this crisis, it will never end.
Well, the latest, obviously, is that France is going to be taking money, like Priti is going to be giving some money for them, and apparently they've absolved all responsibility for the refugees at the other end in France, so they're living in horrific conditions. Yeah. Human rights abuse is going on there that France is responsible for. And, I don't want to blame it on Brexit, but I'm just saying that we've had more problems with, migrants crossing the Channel since then, because obviously if we close our borders, other countries have got a right to close their borders, and France is being difficult. They're literally holding us to ransom and letting... And I just think, why don't we invest our money on the actual smugglers?
I'm afraid there are many things that we pinned on Brexit, but people smuggling and people getting across the Channel.
It's worse since it happened. It's worse.
You're probably right, but I mean, you can't. It's not a. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I don't know if you can necessarily blame.
Well, when you've
Brexit
got the numbers, honey, let's talk.
I will come back to you. I will say this to you though, very quickly, is that my great-great-grandparents came over in a boat semi-legally about 120 years ago to the UK. And look at me now, I'm on GBNews. Hi, Mum.
I know.
Listen, you are nailing it. By the way, the publication in question that had an illustration of Priti Patel as a sacred cow with horns and a ring through her nose was the Guardian newspaper, not the New Statesman.
It was
the Guardian newspaper. So New Statesman, which, by the way, is a great magazine, is off the hook.
OK, Guardian, you've been very naughty.
The Guardian are now in the doghouse. Let's go now.
I think you talked your way out of a legal problem.
I did. I don't
Can't teach that.
I don't want to get any haters from New Statesman or anywhere else, frankly, but I will hold the Guardian to account for what I consider a deeply offensive cartoon, which represents double standards and eye-watering hypocrisy. Look, let's have a look at the post office deliveries. The Mail on Sunday, bad news for impatience fans of the art of letter writing, Sajila.
We've talked about this before. I love a good handwritten letter. But thousands of households will not receive their deliveries until after 6 p.m. under the new Royal Mail shake-up. This is in the Mail on Sunday. I think what it is, we've got a hungry appetite now for shopping online, and we want our deliveries here and now. We want to live in the now. Yeah. And so they can't, meet that. So they're saying now that maybe they're going to start delivering to homes after 5 o'clock and sometimes 6 o'clock. This, of course, changes the terms and conditions of the mailmen's contracts, because they're working in the morning normally to deliver mail. So obviously the unions are going to have a say in that, because if you change any terms and conditions without consultation, it's illegal. You can't do that. But yeah, there's some parts of the country, 100 areas in the UK, they will receive after 5 o'clock, including parts of London, Cornwall, Cumbria, Wales and Scotland, and 17 other areas, which include Cumbria and Truro and Cornwall, won't get theirs until after 6 o'clock. So does it really matter, what time we get our parcels? I don't think it. I don't.
Well, can I say to
you? Are you that bothered?
Can I say to you that sometimes you think the Mail on Sunday can't get any more peak first world problem than something previously they've raved about. But I think that people having to, live their lives with post getting to them, like my water bill or something being posted to me, getting to me at 6:30 as opposed to 10 a.m. in the morning, in some ways would be preferable, so I don't have to open my post. All I find when I get post is it's incredibly negative. So those are
the negative one after 6 o'clock.
It's only people essentially demanding money from me. So if I can have that later on in the day, that would be significantly better.
But then you won't be able to sleep at night if you have it later on in the day. Surely you've got the whole day to kind of recover from it.
That's true.
But David, you're so right, because letters used to be good and bad. So you'd get bills, but you'd also get a cheque for a job you'd done.
That is true. Well, yeah, that's actually paid directly in. God, I'm not old enough.
You're not old enough for that. I got cheques, and then also love letters.
Yes, I didn't get any of those.
Oh, Mark is a lucky.
I bet you still get those.
No.
Do you get fan mail in the post? Do you get handwritten fan mail?
I get a lot of white powder sent in the post.
Do
actually.
you? Okay, I can imagine.
I'm always hoping
your weekends are your weekends. Huh?
Hoping it's something illicit, but normally talcum powder.
Did chain mail ever actually go through the mail?
Pardon?
Chain mail. Was that a mail thing?
What was that?
Chain mail, when you send a horrible thing, if you don't pass it on to 200 people, you're going to die.
Oh, yeah. Was it ever analogue? I'm sure it was back in the day. Wouldn't surprise me. Let's have a look at this story now. The Observer next, and has Boris downed tools, David?
Yes, a hive of inactivity, says the Observer. Boris Johnson under fire for approach to final weeks as PM. This particular story I love because this is honestly true. Many years ago when I was doing my GCSEs, my revision timetable, according to my mum, was also called, incredibly, a hive of inactivity, or something very similar. So what I'd done is I'd vaguely written some stuff on index cards and sort of was reading them, and she'd always come in, I'd be lying on the bed listening to, Oasis or Ocean Colour Scene. So that was then. And essentially what they're saying is a leading author accuses a Tory leader of going, quote, missing in action as his premiership winds down. And Sir Anthony Seldon, who is a biographer of Blair, Brown, Cameron, Theresa May, all the grown-ups that we used to have as prime ministers, and studied the impossible job, said Johnson's approach contrasted sharply with that of his predecessors, who had the luxury of planning their final weeks. What he is saying is that these former prime ministers wanted to sort of push through a final bit of their agenda before they slung their hook and, went to start their memoirs like Gordon Brown did, or went on the international speaking circuit that Tony Blair did. And we're all hoping one day will happen to us. That will be a nice, tasty little earner. But Johnson is doing, well, to be fair, if you are going to leave and you do have the option of putting through some complicated agenda on Brexit, which is probably unworkable, or flying in a typhoon and getting married at your mate's big gaff, somewhere in the Cotswolds, I mean, which one are you going to do, to be honest with you? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot,
No,
but
but
I am tempted to go for the typhoon option always. That's
yeah, but
where I
don't
am.
you think this is like he's behaving like any employee, like who's like handed in their notice, and you're doing out their notice. I'm going to take my annual leave. I'm going to get married. I'm going to nick some of the stationery. You know, and so I'm not going to do. I don't care about work anymore. I'm out. I'm over it. I'm over it. Done. So that's what that is what you do. Just working through his notice.
Yeah, next level gardening leave. I couldn't agree more. That's exactly the way to put it.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, he did use. I mean, he hid in the fridge once, and now he's sort of taking the fridge with him almost. If that makes sense.
That's
And
exactly
the
it. Smuggling it under his coat. Brilliant stuff. Well, that's it for part one, but lots more to come, including workers doing the bare minimum, very much like Boris. And also the Don't Pay movement. Find out what that is. And girls' PE. See you shortly.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Away.
I know, it's gone.
I'm Mark Dolan. Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's papers tonight with my brilliant guests, Sajida Kershi and David Lewis. We kick off part two with the Sunday Telegraph, and there's been some probing at the civil service. David,
yes.
I hope it was consensual.
Another one for me. I'm going to just carry on reading and not rise to that bait. Probe into flexi time deals for civil servants who work part-time hours on full-time pay. This is Jacob Rees-Mogg. Has demanded an official Whitehall-wide review of the system over fears that taxpayers' cash is being wasted. Of course, if you remember, when was it? A few weeks ago now, he went round sort of Whitehall departments and kept leaving sort of post-it notes saying, "Where the devil are you?" Or something similar, and wanted to know the exact hours of people. This is the sunlit uplands that I believe I read about in 2016. Is that right? Where people are now working harder than ever. Not according to Jacob Rees-Mogg. What's happening is that, according to this article in the Sunday Telegraph, I am only repeating it, apparently some people who are working across Whitehall have boasted that they, quote, freely disappear to the gym for hours and skip the office on Fridays without oversight from managers, which to me sounds like a normal day, but I am a freelancer, so I just don't get paid for it. So it's relatable. Yeah. I just don't get paid for doing that.
But they're not actually doing anything wrong in law, right? So basically, if you've got flexi time, and any employee after 26 weeks can ask for flexi time, so it doesn't matter how many hours you do, you know, you can do that. So that does mean that you can work like from 10 till 12, go to the gym for 3 hours, come back, and then sign on and do that again.
Well,
and I think there's pros and cons, obviously.
This show is an hour. Can I just front load
just
my
come in for 20
contribution
minutes.
for the first 45 minutes and then?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you
Yeah,
can,
no,
if you
Mark-
want,
Meghan
you
Markle
can
hold
do a
it.
couple of crunches now.
I could.
Yeah, we'll just hold the fort.
If you slip into your skimpy shorts, let's
Yeah,
see
I
what
mean,
can
look,
happen.
it is what it is. It's late. So I think, anyway, this is a chance for does he have a moniker? Is he a Lord, Mr. Rees-Mogg? I don't even know.
No, he's just a prime. He's not a prime minister. He's a member of Parliament and a member of the cabinet. The Minister for Brexit Opportunities.
Minister for Brexit Opportunities, of course. This is a way of him increasing efficiency within government by scaring the absolute living daylights of people that they'll be losing their jobs for not working themselves to the bone. So I don't know if it'll work. Remember that Liz Truss has also vowed a war on Whitehall waste if she gets to be Prime Minister, which sounds like, she's been rummaging, quite frankly, through the bins, literally, to make sure that this is going to be happening. So we will see.
An interesting one. Well, let's move on now to The Observer. And not everyone shares your work ethic, Sajid.
Yes, right. So there's a quiet quitting. Why doing the bare minimum work has gone global. This is very interesting because following on from that story, so this happened from the pandemic. So people reassess their lives, their working home life, and what they're doing is they don't care about organising the Friday night drinks. They don't care about getting the Christmas cards signed by everybody and the birthday cards. Like, they do their bare minimum, effectively a self-imposed work to rule. Do the time, get out, and then do your own thing. And there's people who've got careers, and it's made us assess things as well as comedians, even though we've got flexible hours anyway and stuff. But there's one great woman. She's she basically, her and her friend Amy Jones have started their marketing career together, and she's really going high flying. And the friend said, "Oh, I'm reducing my days to 3 days," and she sort of judged her. And then she said, and I love this line. I think we should all take it on board. "My busyness doesn't equal my worth," and that's so beautiful, isn't it? It's so true.
I love all of this sort of flowers and sunshine about new groovy working practices and work-life balance. And people popping off to the gym for 7 hours in the middle of a working day. Here's the issue, Sajila. It's all very well if we make the work-life balance better and all have better lives, the economy will shrink and there will be less money for public services.
Well, no, not okay. If you're doing the work that you're supposed to do, you've done the work. If you've got flexi time, that's a legal thing. That's not. Sure. That's not. You can still do your work, and there's 4-day working week. There's all different models of working, and it's you still have to do the work.
I feel there are people on full-time contracts now who are looking for a sort of flexi time lifestyle.
Yeah, but you're entitled to have that as a full-time person. You are entitled to have that legally.
Yeah, but people are starting to say, I don't want to go into the office. I'll work from home for a day, probably.
I mean,
the
working from home. You're right. Working from home, that's changed the whole kind of look of the global world. I mean, I know we're working from home because that's the creatives do. But if you're used to going in, you're not using the trains, you're not using the cafes. And we've discussed this before.
You know what? I spoke to a man about 3/4 of an hour in this building who was telling me about someone he knows, and because they're working from home, they're saving £700 a month on rail fare. So, I mean, I just it's unbelievable. So if you're saving $8.5 grand net on your money, sign me up for that. I like this story because in the notes given to us by the producer, and then we read out the headline, and the second line is "the meaningless of modern work."
Yeah.
I thought they were just aiming that one at me and us, but has led many to question their approach to their jobs. I mean, I don't know anyone now who is doing 5 days a week in an office. I'm sure you don't. I mean, no. I don't know if you've ever worked in an office.
I have had office jobs, yeah, selling pensions on the phone. No. The issue, what I was getting at earlier is just in terms of, if we're going to have more of a work-life balance, that's fine. We won't compete with China and other countries that have a sort of workaholic culture. And the issue is, if you speak to hard-pressed entrepreneurs running medium or small-sized businesses, they will tell you that the staff they've got on the payroll, the full-time staff, they need them to work 8-10 hours a day, 5 days a week.
But to quote Jerry, I mean, I appreciate I'm not here tonight to quote Jerry Maguire, but I would say, show me the money, because the reality is that people who are working from home are as productive, if not more, according to the research that I read. recently, which is unnamed, so therefore the best sort of research. But the productivity is just as good for people who are working from home.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm not 100% sure, unless you own a big chain of coffee shops in the centre of London or near where we are in Paddington, you would stress that people are not coming into the office 5 days a week. But if you are that person where you can save 700 quid, splicing about 4 different life experiences together into one person, save 700 quid, work just as well from home, spend more time with your family.
Well, I do agree with you.
More time in the gym.
I agree with you about the net saving, but work just as well as in the office is, I think, up for debate. You know, James Dyson said just a few weeks ago in an interview with The Telegraph that he thinks it will cost the British economy £15 billion a year and will be a productivity disaster.
Did he say that from London or from Singapore?
Well, he's a very successful British entrepreneur that pays, I think, £120 million in tax every year. So it doesn't matter where he lives, he makes a contribution, doesn't he?
Touché.
But there you go. Let's move on now to the Mail on Sunday and hold the front page. Energy boss thinks people should pay their bills. David.
They do. Energy watchdog urges people not, capital letters NOT, to join the boycott of gas bill payments amid fears that thousands will refuse to pay this winter and cause chaos. As everybody knows, we all know, regardless of our income, tax bill, energy bills have skyrocketed and are continuing to skyrocket. There is the head of the energy regulator, Ofgem, has said that people should not join this campaign for an energy bill strike. So the plan is that on October the 1st, Don't Pay, which is a... I don't know what
campaign
the is. Yeah, a campaign has urged people to cancel their direct debits from October the 1st. Ofgem is saying it's a terrible idea and will impact them and will impact the rest of society who are paying, who are choosing to pay. It's a very... I don't know if it is a complicated one. I'm quite sort of passionate about the fact that I don't really have an opinion about it. If you can't afford to pay it, then you cannot afford to pay it. It's all well and good saying you must pay it, but if it's going up at 400% or 500%, and you have children in a house or a flat, who am I or anyone to say you must carry on paying that? It doesn't matter if your family cannot afford to eat. I mean, I just think it's completely bonkers.
It hints, doesn't it, David, at a potential breakdown in our society. Really.
It does. I mean, genuinely. I mean, you talk about France, you were lambasting it a bit. I'm sensing, going by what their approach to, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm sensing quite strongly that is where it were. France did at least have, I don't know if they've lifted it, have got an energy cap where prices have gone up by several percent. And in the UK, of course, there isn't. So it's going up by 300, 400, 500%. And I don't know what to advise people like that. I mean, I'm certainly not one for encouraging any sort of law breaking on this programme. I don't see if you can't pay, then what you can do. I can't even make a joke about it. It's so bleak, so awful.
So bleak.
Yeah, so I'm going to say I believe in the power of the people. I believe in the power of the people. So, there was a time with the poll tax where 17 million people refused to pay the poll tax, and the government did, reverse the harshest measures. So, I can see where this is coming from, the idea. Because if no one's listening, if no one's helping, if no one's doing anything, then, drastic measures have to be taken. If people can't, feed themselves.
What does happen? That's sort of an interesting thing. What does happen if everyone just says, right, stuff it, I am not going to pay it? I mean, it says in the Mail on Sunday piece that the poll tax brought down Maggie Thatcher, which is inaccurate, I think. It's not fair to say.
But it was a contributing factor, wasn't it?
A big one, I bet. But this, I don't see how... What you can do if so many people decide they're not going to pay. People didn't pay the poll tax. It was incredibly unfair for some people. It's a conversation for 1989. But this conversation about energy prices is not necessarily a question of unfairness or fairness. It's just a reality of counting that people will not be able to pay it.
The difference was a poll tax. That was like a financial kind of giving. This is if you don't pay, then you're not. They can cut your gas, electric. Then you're not heating yourself in the coldest, harshest months. So it is, to kind of mirror what you said, it is harsh.
I'm not even projecting. I'm thinking about what am I supposed to do?
I know. I'm thinking about myself as well, I have to say.
Yeah, I wonder if all of those people who are behind the Don't Pay campaign were also cheerleaders for shutting the economy down for 2.5 years and paying healthy people to stay at home and closing once viable businesses. I don't know. It's just a question. The Observer wants more. And why don't girls like PE lessons, Sajila?
Well, they do. I loved PE, but apparently Or you can't tell now. I obviously stopped liking it. I don't do sweating these days. So the Lionesses' legacy is at risk. A school fails girls, experts are warning. And in the 12 years of Tory government, they've reduced PE hours in schools. 42,000 hours of PE lessons have been lost, and it's affected the girls most. And I don't know why. It doesn't say why it's affected the girls more. But the Lionesses are lovely. They responded with an open letter to the Conservative leadership and called on them to offer football to all girls, guarantee a minimum of 2 hours a week PE, and to invest in female PE teachers so that young girls can flourish.
Amen to that. What a brilliant message from the victorious Women's Euro winners. How about this one, David? It's bad news financially for Warren Buffett, who's lost some money.
It is. This one is in the Sunday Telegraph. Legendary investor Warren Buffett's company posts a $44 billion loss. But it says here Berkshire Hathaway, often viewed as a bellwether, also recorded a 39% rise in operating profits. I need to tell you that as a comedian on the circuit right now, obviously I don't know what the words Berkshire Hathaway, bellwether or operating profits all mean.
Are you liquid at the moment?
Again, not 100% sure, but my water is going down very well. Thank you very much. We're losing $44 billion. We've all been there, am I right? So that is show business for him. It's one of these complicated stories that has a brilliant headline and slowly loses some of its power as you go through, because he works clearly in a market with enormous swings in losses and profits. And then as you sort of dig in deeply, I found that in 2020, for example, Berkshire lost nearly $50 billion in the first quarter, so potentially even more than that, as the pandemic took hold, but made $42.5 billion for the full year. So it's one of those peek behind the curtain and you'll see something very...
We'll have a whip round for Warren Buffett in the break. Lots more to come. I think you'll agree we've got the dream team tonight. Lots more in part 3 with Sajila and David. We'll be talking about Mock the Week being cancelled. We'll be discussing how to break a porn habit, and I'll be thinking about how to get into tight spaces. That's right. The sexy world of car parking beckons. See you in 2.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
I'm Mark Dolan. You're watching Headline as your first look at tomorrow's papers tonight in the company of Sajila Kershi, Queen Bee of headliners, and absolutely smashing his first appearance, the first of many, is top comic David Lewis. The Observer now, and Dara O'Brien has said some things. Perhaps you'd like to share your thoughts on them, Sajila.
Oh, yes, I've been following, some of the fallout on Twitter. I don't often go there too often, but then I see the odd thing. So Dara O'Brien takes aim at right-wing critics and a terrible idea of Brexit. So he says that those concerned about the lack of right-wing comedians on BBC shows should write and perform jokes themselves because the comedy industry is a pretty free market. Kind of agree with that.
I think that's fair, true.
So obviously this is in kind of after announcing that after 17 years, Mock the Week is come to an end. I don't know. We did our morning. We had a minute's silence, didn't we, backstage together? So that was nice. And he said that people get angry that there weren't enough right-wing jokes on the show, and whatever they are. And I kind of agree with him. Like, what is a right-wing joke?
No. This is deliberate misrepresentation. What critics have said is that Mock the Week has been anti-Brexit and anti-government.
Which he agrees with, by the way. He says, yes, he has. That is because that is his position. It is, I can't pretend. Yeah, and they are. They are pretty. Let's face it. Most comedians are lefties like myself.
Yeah.
And so the right feel that they haven't actually had, a space. And I guess this is what this channel is for: is to give the right wing a space. But at the same time, the idea that there is a left-wing joke and a right-wing joke, I don't think that's true. I think, if you're writing funny, you're writing funny.
I agree. I think it's difficult to try and craft a funny punchline when in the back of your mind you're genuinely believing that establishment knows best, to be honest with you. But that is just me.
I think you're right. You're right. The principle, and this is actually, we heard this earlier from John Fleming, who's a comedy critic and author, and he said that most comedians are left-leaning because comedy is anti-establishment.
That's true. Can I just very briefly talk that programme? It looked like Christopher Biggins, from where I was seeing, was actually on a roller coaster. So
he was moving.
Feed that back. The camera was coming up, and the back of it, I think, oh my God, he looked like he was on a roller coaster.
I did wonder where he was. I thought he was on a train. I wasn't sure what was happening.
Chessington Wild Adventures, potentially.
So. I saw a giraffe in the background.
Oh, you never know. Anyway, so yeah, the programme's gone. Dara O'Brien takes aim at right-wing critics and the terrible idea of Brexit. It sort of feels like he is now unleashed and untethered to say what he's always sort of wanted to say without the BBC necessarily sort of giving him a bit of a sort of dressing down for being too clearly anti-Brexit, but and whatever it was.
I like Dara, and I think he's entitled to his opinion like everybody else. And I think that's not a what he said. It's partly I agree with, partly I don't.
I mean, if you look at shows like the MASH report, it was just a weekly diatribe against the government, wasn't it?
Of course.
I love the MASH report. Can I just say our brethren, like Steve Allen, he was amazing on it, and Nish. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to let you diss that because that's like that's my brothers.
Nish's monologue was just an angry rant about the government every single week, and the Tories are evil. That was it. I don't remember any anti-Keir Starmer jokes or any Lib Dem jokes or any Green jokes.
Is that because nobody knew who Keir Starmer was for the?
Well, I was schooled in comedy back in the day, the likes of David Letterman in America. Whoever was president would get it in the neck, but basically everyone got jokes about them made. Whereas you feel that on telly now, it's skewed in a certain direction.
Fair enough. I never shy away from whether I'm left-leaning or not. My heart was always going to be left, but I'm never going to shy away from what's wrong is wrong. I can't understand people who blindly follow their party. I've never got that, right? If something's wrong, something's wrong. But why should he then dig into Keir Starmer if that's not what he feels? If that's not where he feels he can get jokes?
Well, because it's a comedy show made by the national broadcaster, which is paid for by everyone, and it's offering one view.
It's one programme. What we need is probably a programme like this.
What is the programme that spends hours attacking the Labour Party on the BBC?
But that's what I'm saying. Perhaps we need something like this.
Now we're getting somewhere.
No, but you're just being deliberately difficult today.
No, I'm not. The MASH report was well made, but the monologue at the start of the show was relentlessly anti-government, and
but that's our job to be anti-government, right?
I suppose
I think it was right-wing people are terrible.
Spitting Image gave it, both barrels. To,
gave it in the past tense. You're talking about a show that used to be on TV.
I'm afraid to say I'm not sure if you have, seen how long it's been since there has been a Labour government. But when there was, they got it, in the neck from both barrels. Since the last, when was the last Labour government? 2007?
Oh, I don't know, but it felt like it was
So
Tory.
the last 12 years, an explosion of different...
Yeah, there was.
I mean, I'd give you, to offer, some sort of an olive branch here, I think if you look at Private Eye is amazing because it does lampoon everyone.
Yeah.
And they often are very funny about Keir Starmer and Boris Johnson, and I think that's...
But I have to say,
I think have not done that.
To give it like some little positive twist, maybe now they've got rid of Mock the Week, maybe they could use programmes like Headliners. Maybe they should be chasing after us and seeing, if this kind of work.
You're not for sale.
But I am.
Oh dear. There'll be a bidding war. But let me tell you, she's worth every penny and we will win. The Mail on Sunday next, and the Saudi Arabian Disney Plus sounds a bit rubbish. I wish I'd never subscribed, David.
Yes, Buzz Lightyear film. It's not so much to infinity and beyond, it is to the cutting room floor and no further. Lightyear will not screen on Disney Plus streaming services in the Middle East after it was banned from cinemas over a gay kiss scene. And now it says it will align with censorship rules. So the long and short of it is I didn't know this, there was a Buzz Lightyear film coming up and going out all over the world, as it is. Pixar have made it. And there was a scene in it, apparently, that there was a kiss between two women. And 14, it says in the Mail on Sunday here, this is sort of a kind of dream story for the Mail on Sunday. 14 Muslim-majority nations have banned the Disney movie for its lesbian kiss. I will tell you this, that when I used to live a long time ago, before I did journalism, before I did comedy, I was a tour guide. And I lived in Cairo, right, for just under a year or so. And it's a fascinating, brilliant place to live. But telly is completely different, right? So there's all well and good saying, a gay kiss, which is the headline of this particular piece. When I was in Cairo, from what I can remember, you weren't really allowed to see someone's shoulders on the telly. Right? So bare shoulders, that is, right? On a woman, right? So it's like just a swimming costume or something. They would sort of pan away from that scene or they'd cut it. So a lot of the films will be very, very strangely cut. So this one seems to be one that is not that... it seems to tally with that, to be honest with you. One of the interesting things that I saw, right, and I didn't know this, is the actor Tim Allen, who used to play Buzz Lightyear. Did you used to watch the Toy Story
Yeah, I've watched all of them. I've got a son who was...
He was in the first four. He's been replaced by Chris Evans, the actor, not the guy who is a bit like Mark Dolan sometimes. Many Toy Story fans have speculated whether Tim Allen was replaced because it was politically motivated, because Allen was a big Republican. I think he was a Trump fan. And Tim Allen went on to say, this is like the 1930s in Germany. I don't know what happened if you're not part of this group. It's like groupthink, and I'm a comedian. This is what's happened. So he's comparing it, or his life, as being replaced as Buzz Lightyear it's like the 1930s Germany. And what it is, it's many things. But what I can definitely say it isn't like is 1930s Germany.
Well, my take on this is like maybe they should have the kiss if it's behind in a closet. Because let's face it, homosexuality and lesbianism does happen in the Middle East. It's just obviously, if you're a lesbian, it's probably in the harems. It's much easier to be a lesbian, probably. But yeah, if you're gay, you're going to be in the closet. Wake up.
You've got
the gays too.
That wasn't necessarily my tour guide pitch, by the way.
No, I'm glad to hear that. Let's have a look at our next story, a palate cleanser now. The topic of cheerfulness has made it into The Observer. Who better to talk to about optimism than the radiant, always joyful Sajila Kirsch.
So being cheerful on the outside can help you and others feel it in the inside. And I 100% agree with this. I 100%. Because I'm not always feeling it. But if you carry on being cheerful, I think eventually you manage to cheer yourself up.
Absolutely.
So this, the surest of wisdom is a constant cheerfulness, wrote the French philosopher Michel de Montaigu in the 16th century. Be cheerful, commands Prospero, arguably the wisest of all Shakespeare's characters in The Tempest. So basically, the impact of cheerfulness doesn't just help you, it helps everyone around you. And it's
Can I say I find cheerful people unbearable?
That's because you're miserable by nature, and you choose not to. So if you're in a funk, right? If you just had an upset and a funk, right? Then if you're miserable, F-U-N-K, right? Yes. Then you're miserable. Do you not? If you can either be. So I don't like to be in front of the people if I'm upset, or if I'm miserable, if I'm depressed, because I don't want to bring other people down. So, and if I do have to, then I have to bring it, because I think maybe it's a comedian thing, like you put on a face, and then you can go home and cry into your cup of soup.
Yeah, OK. Oh, well, look, there you go. We're always cheerful on this show, are we not? Moving on to the Sunday Times, a lot of men will be glued to their TV screens listening to this one, not because it's compelling, but for more shameful reasons, David.
That is correct. Thank you for passing me this story on my first time doing headliners at GB News. Sunday Times, men break the porn habit with 4 steps to cleaner living. And this is the story of Jack Jenkins, who's launched an app called Remojo because he wanted to remove, quote, junk media and pornography from his life. So he's a British guy who wants to cut out, presumably, reading between the lines, cut out pornography in his life. So he launched this app and it would stop people accessing pornography on their phone. And it's been installed by 432,000 people. And there's some interesting things that have come out of this. The UK is apparently 4th in the list of top 10 countries for porn downloads. India has the most. Who knew that? United States, number 2. Bangladesh, 3. I'm only repeating what the Sunday Times, I'm sure they've done. I don't know how they've done their due diligence on it. And this is what he said, which I particularly like. This is this guy, Jenkins. He's a very impressive guy, 32-year-old. Even though I didn't have a problem with porn, the person who invented this particular app, even though I didn't have a problem with porn, I thought, I wish I was never exposed to this, and I know my life would be better if I cut it out completely, which sort of sounds like someone, not him, who did have a problem with porn, who would be saying something like that. I'm sure he didn't, and he's done very, very well with it. So it's a way of cutting out porn that's been very, very popular. Who knew?
Well,
that worked for you, Sajila?
I don't get porn like little pop-ups. I get like pop-ups for really, really big pants that's supposed to hold your belly. And I bought them.
That is porn, I'm afraid to say.
That's not porn. I bought them, and they're not. It's do I look thinner? People, no, I don't. It's not working. Huh?
You look gorgeous.
Yeah, but the pants don't work. They kept advertising. I thought, all right, I'll buy them. All right then. Yeah. Totally.
Well, I'll tell you something. My pants aren't working either, so that's 2 of us. On to the Sunday Telegraph now, and the enigma that are cats has been solved, Sajila.
Oh, this is so interesting. So why cats love people who hate them. Now, I don't hate cats. I'm allergic to them, so I'm not like really a cat person. But they always swim around in and out of my legs, flirting, it's irksome. But apparently, this is normal. So cat lovers, actually, cats don't like being around them because they grab them in places they don't want to be grabbed. #me too, pussy. Feline, funny, right? And so cats, people who don't like cats know them, and actually, I think they like the chase. So it's like, oh, you don't like me, I will find a way to like you. Like Pepe Le Pew. Do you remember Pepe Le Pew when he chased her? And I think it's a little bit like that. So
it sounds like it's group therapy for me, and with my cat not here, because what you are describing is essentially what happens. I've spent the last sort of 5 years forcing my cat to love me, and my girlfriend and I have both been trying to force our cat to love us.
No, you're too needy. Too needy.
Does not give a absolute damn about us at all. I think you're right. I think picking the cat up, showing it any emotion, it's sort of like dating in like that sort of notion of dating in the 90s, if you know what I mean. Like,
it is, but they've even got like...
mean, keep them keen.
Yeah, exactly. And they've even got like red areas, or in cat world, that is like the
Reddit areas.
Red areas, which is like safe word, where they hate to be touched, which include the base of the tail and the stomach. So don't touch them there. But the green areas where they like to brings them all to a frenzy are the rich gland regions, the base of the ears and under the chin. I'm the same.
Of course you are. Well, we'll be tickling you later. It's been a brilliant conversation tonight. David Lewis, come back and sue us soon, right? See you soon. You absolutely smashed it. We loved having you on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
The wonderful David Lewis, and of course the Queen Bee of headliners, Sajila Kershi herself, whose glass is always full. Now, joining me tomorrow on Headliners will be Dara O'Brien and Nish Kumar. Oh, no, it's Josh Howie and Steve N. Allen. Can't wait for that one. And don't forget, I'm back in the hot seat at 9 o'clock tomorrow for Mark Dolan tonight. In my big opinion monologue, I've got an announcement in relation to Rishi Sunak. You won't want to miss it. That's 9 o'clock tomorrow. And see you for Headliners at 11. Ciao.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
On Mark Dolan Tonight, we have a simple plan, which is to inform, stimulate, and entertain in equal measure. It's all about getting your opinions on the national television airwaves. I love my viewer emails, mark@gbnews.uk. So do join me from 9 p.m. to midnight every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for big guests, big opinions, and a big presenter. 6'5", don't you know? See you then on GB News.
We are